Hi everyone, welcome to the Numerology and the Astrology for July 15th, 2020. If you add all those numbers together, you get the number 17, and if you add the 1 and the 7 together, you get the number 8. Now, the number 8, as you've heard me say, is about grief, loss, and sadness. It's about prana and breath and remembering to breathe, because when we get frightened or we get afraid or we get constricted, we have a tendency to hold our breath and we have a tendency to not breathe. But I also like to look at this sometimes as the skill that over this lifetime I have learned from many gurus and teachers, which is about absolutely honoring and embracing what you feel in every single moment. And that's hard to do because nobody wants to embrace sadness and nobody wants to embrace grief. But it's when we ignore an emotion and we stuff it into deep recesses of our subconscious that it becomes like a hungry wolf in the basement, and it will do anything to get out and to get our attention. And one of the ways sadness and disowned emotion and grief and loss will get our attention is through physical pain. And so when you have physical pain, I try and drop into what that pain is, and I let it have a voice. I let it talk to me. Why are you hurting? What is going on? And you might have heard in some of my different videos that, I might have mentioned that my body's a little weird, which would not be terribly surprising considering I'm a psychic and I'm very sensitive to subtle energy. But I picked this body specifically because I wanted its sensitivity. But with that sensitivity comes a need to have this skill to really address and look at the feelings and the emotions that you're having or avoiding or stuffing. Because for me, I can't really stuff them. I mean, I know some people stuff them their whole entire life. They stuff them and stuff them and stuff them, and then they have massive heart attacks at 50 and die. I prefer not to do that. I don't really think I could do that even if I wanted to do that. So in the Vajrayana Buddhist tradition, they talk about that you look at all feelings and emotions as doorways to consciousness, and they all have something they're trying to say. And the more a feeling has been denied or abused, the harsher or rougher or bumpier it gets. And I bring this up just because we're in a world right now that is really bumpy on the emotional level, and people are really stressed and strained trying to cope with the complex emotions that are coming up. And I see this in my own family. I even had a conversation with my own sister who is a doctor, and you can imagine that the stress and strain that she's feeling in being in the hospitals with COVID, and then you've got all these people denying that there's COVID, and she's dealing with people dying with COVID. And so it becomes excruciatingly painful to those out there that are dealing with the reality, the people who project their illusions and non-reality on them. And it actually causes them physical pain. It actually causes them suffering. And so, we were talking about how do you cope? How do you cope with these kinds of deep emotions? And I think embracing sadness is a skill that is painful to learn, and our instincts are to pull away from those things that cause suffering and that hurt us. But when that pain is in your body, it is advisable to move into the pain rather than away from the pain. Again, being a ballet dancer, dancers have to dance, and you have to go on stage and you have to perform, even if you're injured, even if you have pneumonia, even if there's different things going on, you have to go on. So you learn to work with the pain, process the pain, analyze the pain, talk to the pain, address the pain with incredible respect, and try to work with it and work through it. And I think being a ballet dancer helped me understand this concept of not avoiding pain, because in ballet you can't avoid pain. It's just like there's just no way. If you were an athlete at any point in time, there's no way you aren't going to have sore muscles or injure yourself or feel exhausted and somehow still have to keep going. And what kind of conversation do you have with yourself that allows you to keep going? And the first conversation I have with myself when I'm in pain is that I understand that pain is a constriction. And so that I try and breathe into the pain, which is why we're in the number 8 day, which is prana and breath. I try to loosen it up by stretching, which is why the number 8 is also associated with yoga. So stretching the muscles, stretching things out, because oftentimes if you can stop parts of your body from going like this to protect something, and you start to loosen it up, the brain goes, are we okay? Maybe we're okay. Oh, okay, well, I think we're okay. I think I can let it go. Because when you have an emotional trauma, a mental trauma, a spiritual trauma, a physical trauma, the brain goes, oh shit, and will tighten up and contract around that pain. And if you try to force it, the brain goes, no, I'm hurt. And it takes a lot of coaxing to talk yourself out of the contraction and to open up that pain. So when you allow yourself to lovingly go deeper into what is the natural human experience in this dimension, you discover the voice within the pain that is attempting to get your attention. And pain is an indicator of imbalance. It shows you where you have not been listening or ignoring a part within that has something very important to tell you. Within all of us are parts that develop to cope with various situations. We have powerful parts and vulnerable parts, child parts and adult parts, masculine parts, feminine parts, artistic parts, and intellectual parts. But in the hustle and bustle of life, we push aside some of those and push them into the shadow. And those parts can get so pushed down that they don't feel heard or listened to. And that's when they use the body to get you to notice what they have been trying to tell you. Sadness is an emotion that often gets suppressed because others judge it as depression. Oh, you're just depressed. In our culture, it's not okay to look sad, mopey, grumpy, depressed, or down, especially now because so many do not have enough bandwidth to cope with one more problem. Today, try to embrace the sadness and grief that you are holding within. Love it into a place that feels heard and acknowledged. That is the only way any of us can heal. That is the only way you can grow into becoming a more whole and fulfilled person. The astrology today. Today, the Sun is opposing Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn. Today would not be the day to push your philosophy or obsess on world events on others. It is a good time to honestly look at what is getting in the way of creating the world you want and deserve. Notice the external world has created this situation that was intended to sort of get in your way. The only way through is to change the belief systems on a global scale. The moon is in Taurus, and while with this there is a desire to get comfortable, that's going to be difficult with the Sun opposing Pluto because we are all being pulled deeper and deeper into the thoughts and the buried issues. Much is unresolved, and much will continue to be lingering in the distractions of chaos. Thoughts and feelings and accumulation are accumulating towards events that will shine a very bright light, revealing that what we have been holding on to is a mist and shadow of ego and the desire for personal power or to be right. Notice the discomfort that has been designed to be disruptive. Notice the intentional manipulations being inflicted upon your consciousness and physical reality. You are becoming more and more aware just because of the force of darkness that attempts to suppress the light of kindness and love in this world. While outside forces can appear to control the physical plane of existence, it can never control your soul or your spirit. When your spirit is in need, it reaches beyond its own reality and into the substance of existence. That is where answers lie and pathways that you have not conceived. And new strategies emerge in the light of hope. You become able to grasp the head of the snake because your courage is stronger than your fear. Because you are not alone, you never have been alone. There is always more energy available if you just ask for help. It's a really good lesson. Like, ask for help. And I'm not talking about from other people. I'm like this way, like help. Okay. Everyone is walking on a sharpened edge. Stray just a little, and some will fall into the volatility and defensiveness. And that is the plan of the darkness. All the drama happening is designed to make people's power feel powerless. But this time it will fail. When the battle is waged internally first, then the external conflicts are observed rather than reacted to. The external conflict must be waged internally, so the external circumstances change in a graceful rather than violent way. Okay, now, so I've been contemplating I've been watching all these shows on the Science Channel, and they talk about, dark matter and black holes, and dark matter is really real, and you can actually really detect it and all this kind of stuff. And I believe there's darkness in the world. I do. I mean, I prefer not to go there, but I mean, I really recognize that there is darkness in the world. And if there was ever a more obvious moment, the darkness is happening right now. The darkness is so incredibly obvious. It's incredibly obvious. Sorry, I have a phone that is supposed to not do this. And so anyway, so we're going to go here, and we're going to try and block this. I hate it when the phones go and they won't let you turn them off. It's like, funny. Okay, sorry about that. I will sit on the phone. All right, so I've been looking at the entire dynamic of what is evil and what is darkness, and what causes us to ignore the light messages and the potential that is within humanity, and out of our own inadequacies and fears, we fall into the darkness, or we allow evil to kind of manipulate us, right? So, the 7 deadly sins are real. It's like throughout my life, it's like, I've had angels go, okay, you just got greedy right there. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. And then like, oh, now you're lusting after having something that somebody else has, but you haven't earned it yet. Oh, okay. So it's not like I think, I'm perfect and all this. I think, but I do think it is important to really distinguish between those sides and what hooks us in those darker places. So my quote for today is that he who looks up to evil has been studied by evil. He who is blind to suffering is also blind to evil. He who uses others is also used by evil. He who lies in the face of truth is a minion of evil. So really think about that for a second. If you look up to someone that is obviously got power, but obviously incredibly dark, you have to understand that darkness, that evil, studies humanity and studies what their weaknesses are, and will intentionally create an illusion that favors your weaknesses to hook you. So you've been deeply studied by that darkness, like where is her chink, where is her weakness. He who is blind to suffering is also blind to evil. So if you refuse to address the fact of the imbalances that are happening in the world right now between cultures and races and colors, then you are also blind when that evil is showing up. So when there's violence and prejudice, like you will again turn a blind eye to that. So if you can turn a blind eye to suffering, you will turn a blind eye to when evil is actively creating that suffering. He who uses others is also used by evil, because you're supposed to be standing here as an independent person. You're supposed to be learning to be a baby God. You're supposed to be learning to master this dimension. Yes, we need each other. We need each other's feedback, and we need each other's support, and we need each other's brutal honesty in order to evolve. But that's different than using someone for your own gain. Like, I'm going to get close to this person because then they're going to give me something, or they're going to give me money, or they're going to give me fame, or they're going to give me the connection connections that I'm looking for. And so then you also, if you are using others, you are also being used by evil, because evil says, oh, you can't do it on your own. So, here you have to have this person. You have to use this person to get where you're going to get, which is a complete lie. We need each other as support. We don't need to use others and take from them things that we think we want. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. He who lies in the face of truth is a minion of evil. So if you basically lie when the truth is presented, you have a veil over your eyes and your ears and your mouth is being used by dark forces to perpetuate the illusion that they are trying to create. And so if you lie when the truth is presented, and you speak that lie over and over again, you are being controlled by darker forces. Okay. My blog today. So last night I had this dream about darkness spreading overhead in the sky, coming for us. At first I thought it was a flock of birds, like a mass of ravens flying in. And so in my dream I'm going, oh, raven, is a spirit animal. There's a message from spirit trying to come in. Oh, maybe it's a crow. A crow is about facing the shadow. Well, we're definitely facing our shadow right now, but it's like a crow pecked and pecked and pecked at its own shadow, and its shadow woke up and ate it. And so crow is called dead crow. So it's like if you do not integrate your own shadow, your shadow will tend to eat you alive. And so the dream was a little confusing, because what happened was, I'm trying to analyze whether these are ravens or whether they're crows in the dream. Those ravens turned into warplanes. And I watched a conquest of epic proportions swoop in and change all the focus out of selfishness and petty rivalries into the realization of humanity's stupidity and inability to see what was coming because of their shallow, myopic perspective in their ego fights about petty things that have no real substance in the greater order of this world. Yeah, kind of interesting, huh? So, I hope my dream is not the reality. I hope for us to awaken and change before others with power decide to take us over, as we are paralyzed and catatonic in our distraction of our own arrogance. There you go. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.